Hey everyone. Um, so sorry
Hi.
about that. We had some technical difficulties, but welcome to our virtual field trip with Maria. So my name is Ashley. I am the founder of Project Exchange, which is bringing you these field trips today. Our mission is to help every student access a meaningful cross-cultural learning experience as part of their education. And so that's why we've organized this series of virtual field trips. And with us today is Maria. Maria is a software calibration mechanical engineer working in the automotive field. And so she's here to share her story on how culture, gender, and community identity has shaped her STEAM journey. So it's all yours, Maria.
All right. Thank you so much for your introduction, Ashley. So can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. And you can see me as well. So if I show you something, because I did some drawings. So here it says, welcome to the virtual field trip. I hope you can see that.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, great. All right. So I'm going to start taking a little bit of time explaining who I am, who is Maria, and what am I doing. And for that, I would like to start saying, where am I located? And I wanted to go to Google Maps. Share, just because we are so far away that I'd like to point that out. So you are more or less around here. I don't know exactly in the Pacific region of the United States, right? And we have to go back here to Europe. So this is the place where I grew up, and this is the place where I live, in Stuttgart. Actually, I live here, Stuttgart. So you have a couple of hearts here. And what do I do? Like Ashley was saying, I work in the automotive field, which sounds very man-like, but it actually doesn't have to be. And but the main idea for you to understand what I do is to think about the parts that form a car. So I work at Bosch, which is a supplier company, and that means that all the cars, but not only cars, but also any means of transportation need hardware parts that we build, but they also need software that we build. And the software is more or less the code that's used to communicate with the car. So let's say, for example, when I get into the car and you turn the key on in order to turn the engine on. So there is a sequence of things that happen from the moment you mechanically do the turning until the point where the engine is running. So this is this kind of language that we use to communicate with the car. This is what I focus on in my work. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And yeah, so this was the first part. Who is Maria? This is who I am. And I want to take a little bit of time explaining why I studied engineering. And I did another drawing, which says education, choosing means limiting. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I was like around 16, I think it's in the Spanish system is when you're 16, that you have to choose between science and arts and literature and all this. And for me, it was really, really hard because I don't like to choose. I don't like to limit my field of knowledge. So for me, choosing was a struggle. But I said, well, what can I focus on? And what is the thing that I can choose that I really need help with? And the other things I can compensate by reading a book or doing things by myself. So that was the main trigger for me to go towards STEAM, towards math and the sciences, because I said, well, I won't be able to learn it on my own, but I can always read a book of literature or a history book or whatever that I can't really have time during my school hours to learn from a teacher. But it really, really was difficult. And I can imagine you girls, you're facing this, you're gonna face these choices, and it's not really, it's really hard. And it goes on. It's not just okay science or arts and literature, but rather afterwards you have to choose between biology and the technology modules. So for me it was again back and forth. I didn't really know what to do. My parents and all my family, really, they are doctors, so I really wanted to keep with the tradition. But I said, okay, well, I don't know. The technology part is also very, very interesting. And the reason why I finally decided to go to engineering is because I really want to understand the mechanisms behind everything. And that was what I say, well, engineering is help me do that. And I think I wasn't wrong. I really am very happy that I made that decision, even though it was it was 15 years ago, and I don't really think the way I thought that at that time, but it was the right thing to do. And I started studying engineering, mechanical engineering in Spain, and then I moved to Germany. That was the next chapter. Why did I do that? In Europe, we have exchange programs for the university. And I decided to do just the last year because Germany is within Europe is the land or the country of the technology. So I said, well, if I'm going to do a mechanical engineering, I'd rather do a little bit or learn a little bit from the Germans. And that was my first shock when I came here, because studying in Spain, of course there were more male colleagues than women, or more men than women in university in my class, but it was around 30% women maybe. And then I came here and it was less than 10% of women studying not only mechanical but all the STEAM topics. So I was really surprised, because I said, well, I thought Germany, that we have to learn from you, from coming from Spain. But yeah, that was the first shock. But it was okay. Like studying, it was okay. Then I started working in a company here at Bosch in Germany, and the culture shock really hit me, because I remember starting learning everything here, really, because I didn't really know the language well. And I was sent to customers with other colleagues. And I always had the impression that while we were in a meeting, the customer would talk to my male colleague and not to me. Maybe because he was thinking I didn't know, or maybe because he wasn't used to talking to a woman or something. I don't know. I don't really know. But at first it was very surprising. And at a certain point, it started bothering me so much, because I said, well, what did I do wrong, no? And then I did a wrong move, let's say, because I said, well, if they can't respect me, the way I am now and the way I'm acting, I'm going to start being more aggressive. That way they'll see that I'm right. I have good ideas, and that they have to listen to me as well. I think I didn't do it consciously, but I got out of frustration. I just started doing that. And I did that like for a year or so. I started behaving more and more like my colleagues, more or less. So I don't know if Ashley was able to share the video that I sent, the animation video, but I started to imitate them in the people that was around me, which is a way of surviving, but it's not the right way, probably. And then the funniest thing happened, or the best thing happened. That was the next chapter, which is reinventing myself in the US, in the USA. Because due to work, I got a job that was happening in Michigan, in the United States. And so I got the perfect opportunity because I got how do you say, a distance from where I was working and where I was where I developed my first phase of work. And I realized I didn't do the right decision, because I wanted to be respected for for my ideas and for my thoughts, but I didn't want to be disrespectful to other people. And then I said, no, this is great that I acknowledge that I realize that this is not the way for me. I have to look for another way, right? Because this is one of the myths that you face when you start working in such an environment, because there's so many male colleagues that you feel like you have to behave like them, that you have to mimetize, and that you can't shine with your own light. And it's actually the opposite that helps. I realized that it's actually when you start sharing your point of view. At first, it might be very weird for them, but in the end, the best ideas come from diversity in gender, in age, in religion, in a background, whatever. Those are the best ideas. And people realize that step by step. It's not like from today to tomorrow, they can change their mentality, but if you work step by step with them, they will. So this was something that I started learning also in the United States, of course, because it's very diverse on its own, right? And it was really great. It was really great to find the essence that I would use as a recipe for all my experiences afterwards. So this is what I wrote here: difference as an advantage, and not as a problem. After being 3 years in Michigan, we flew back. Well, we moved back to Germany, and that time with the little baby. So little Adrian was born in the United States. And I said, okay, I'm going back and I'm confronting the previous me. So what am I going to do to be different, right? To still be a successful woman in the workforce, in the automotive field, but not be successful by mimetizing and by imitating what I am seeing, but rather by highlighting what I can offer and putting it on the table. And what I did is I started asking for opportunities to not only using these diversity methods and ideas in my group, but rather helping other groups to see what the differences are and using them to create better ideas. to create better ideas, come to better solutions to problems and all these things. So as a matter of fact, it's not just me doing that in my organization, but it was good that I joined a group of people that facilitate this kind of workshops and ideas and initiatives that we do. So it was great also to see so many people realizing the same thing. And of course, it's not that I don't face this kind of situations as I did before with my male colleague in front of me, and people just like male would talk to each other and ignore me. But now I take it with humor. I say, okay, if you don't need me here, I can go. But I feel like you are not you're not listening to what I'm saying, and I'm actually saying good things, right? So I just take a little bit of the humor to help it, because I realized as well that they don't do it on purpose. They just do it because this is the way they were taught. So yeah, so that's what I learned, and I'm so grateful to do that. I'm so grateful to use that every day. So for the last part, yeah, I would like to give you some hints of what you can do. Of course, I'm not gonna say you should do engineering, because I did and it was great. Think about all the things that you like and all the things that you're good at, and think how you can be better. And why is that? Is because for me, it was the decision to going towards STEAM was because that's gonna complete me so much, and the rest I can do on my own. I'm studying, I don't know, psychology or religion or whatever things, I can do it on my own. But STEAM is so complex sometimes that you really need somebody in front of you explain that to you. That was at least my experience. And I don't know if I would be as successful if I had chosen to be a doctor, or if I had chosen to be a journalist, whatever. I'm sure I'd find it a nice part of it, or I'd find my passion in it, because I don't think it's so necessary to find the thing you're perfect at, but rather you find yourself in whatever subject you choose. So that's at least what I feel. And also, you'll be the only woman in the room many times. I'm normally every day the only woman in a room, and you'll hear things that you don't want to hear, but just say that I don't want to hear that. Or yeah, I just fight it with humor, and be a difference. It's not that easy, but I don't think it's easy either for them. I think I don't know, whatever you can bring on the table that is different, it will be at first criticized, but it will be treasured afterwards. And with that, I'm more or less at the end. So I'll present my last slide here. I'm a little bit ahead of time, but I don't know. Maybe we have a little bit more time for questions.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Maria. Just the words of wisdom and your advice. Awesome. Yeah, so let's definitely open up for questions. So if anyone has questions, feel free to type it in the chat box in Zoom, and we will answer your questions. So as people are typing their questions, I think I'm going to start off with a question that kind of came up for me. So you talked about kind of like being able to take up space in kind of like in like not only like in the workspace, but also just being able to kind of like bring your full self and kind of be able to show people around you that you're here and you have good ideas and stuff like that. What advice do you have for like middle and high school girls on how they can take up space in their like STEAM classes or just in their community?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I think I forgot a little bit how hard it is. Those years they're really hard because you don't want to really show difference. You want to be like the rest of you. But I think, yeah, we have to take some time to really think of our ideas and our understanding of life. And when you take time for yourself and you maybe talk to the closest person you have, somebody from your family, from somebody from your group of friends, and they agree with you, then you feel empowered. And then this empowerment will help you open more and more towards more people, because more and more people will say, well, I think you're right, and I think I'm ready to follow you, So it's step by step. It's not like saying, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, I'm going to show everybody my colors. No, that's very, very hard. But rather, if you go to a closest person and then realize a little bit more and more, your confidence will grow.
Okay. Awesome. And we did have a question that came in from a student about just can you tell us more about your job and what's your favorite part of your job?
Oh, yeah, my favorite part of my job. Well, my job involves working in prototype cars. So they are cars that are not on sale yet, because they are like model years, 2 or 3 model years ahead of us. So they have new functions, new functionalities, new things that we don't see still. So the greatest thing, I think, is when you do test trips, that you have to go to whatever different heights or temperatures, you have to go to different places. And in order for the sport magazines, they know where these cars are. So in order for them to photograph the new cars, you have to cover them, and they have camouflage. And yeah, that's a lot of fun, because in the end you get a much more attention than if you just have a car, no? Because it's all the camouflage and all the things around it. So that's a lot of fun. Another thing that I really enjoy as well is talking to the customers, because, well, the customers are actually the engine companies or the manufacturing companies. So it's Audi, it's BMW, it's Chrysler, and they all are so different. Their culture, their priorities are so different from each other. So it's also very, very fun. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then we had one more question that came in about how do others react when you bring humor to different situations? And can you share like a story that goes with it, like a funny situation?
Yeah, let me think about that one real quick. Yeah. Well, in general, at first they of course look a little bit weird to me when I use humor, especially because the Germans are very, very strict and very, systematic, and all the cliches, they're really true, and I'm trying to think of a situation. Yeah, like what I was saying before, if there's people just talking to each other or making a sexy comment about a person that is going around, I'm just saying, like, hey, are you really listening to yourself? what is going on? What are we talking about? Can you really focus on the thing that we have here right now? You are the German one. I am the Spanish, because the Germans are very focused. So if they change the subject and then go to other things, you can always say to them, you are the German one. You're very focused. So let's focus on this. And then they really, they take it with humor as well. They don't get very upset. A little bit.
Yeah, I think learning how to use humor to diffuse situations is definitely something that we can all learn how to do. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are all of our questions for today. But I think we're just going to end with one last one, which is if you could give a piece of advice to yourself back when you were in middle school or high school, what would you say?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because that was one of the ones that you listed before. I would actually change it a little bit to giving me advice to the person when I started in the workforce, and I was so upset because I was getting so ignored. I wish I would have known before that just pushing it a little bit and being myself a little bit more, I would get so much, because that's where I am right now. And of course I had to deal with all the things, right? And you have to be in the bottom of it before going up again. But I wish really that somebody would tell me, be yourself and don't be afraid. And I'm going to tell you now that that we have a little bit more time, a situation just for you to understand also the environment that I was in. So there was my boss, she was a woman, and I had been in the company for like around 6 months, and we went out of a meeting, and she said to me, you know, Maria, you're asking too many questions in the meetings. And I'm like, well, I don't understand something, I asked. And she says, well, it's good that you ask one time or 2 times, but when you still don't realize, don't understand it, then stop asking and go to your room or to your desk and learn it by yourself. And that really shocked me, because I was taught to, you know, you have to ask until you know that you understand the task and you can do it on your own. And after some time, I realized that advice that she gave me wasn't very good, that I have to keep asking, you know, and it was a woman, you know, and she was a successful woman. She was a boss, but she was imitating the room again, you know, like, I don't want to feel like an idiot. I don't want everybody to think that that I didn't understand it, so I'll just shut up. No, I know, okay, I don't want to bother people asking 20 times because I don't understand it. But at the end, if I don't understand it, I will say, you know, I don't understand it, but I don't want to bother your time. I appreciate your time, and maybe we can take it another step another time, you know. But yeah, that was the kind of advice that I was getting from my boss, my direct boss. Yeah. And then okay, advice for I think this advice is independent on the age. So also for middle school girls, I also say the same. Believe in yourself. And I know it's really hard because you are you're constantly being bombarded with different thoughts, and they say I should study this, but they say I should study that, and it's really hard to focus. And it is also okay to make a mistake. I think you are so young, and if you lose a year because you did a wrong choice, let's say, and you realize afterwards, I think that's completely normal. And it's okay. We're gonna be working so many years. I think it's okay to lose 1 year and say, okay, I made a mistake. Let's go back to something else. that suits you more, independently of what your family say, your family, your friends or whatever are doing. You have to look for yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for leading a virtual field trip and sharing your story with us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. And for all of the attendees, we will be just sending follow-up resources through email. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But yeah, thank you all for being on the field trip.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.